Zayin in the Gemara, Lamed in Barachas, Lamed Gimel, and then you find it in Masechta Kesubos as a contractual Lamed Aleph, and you find it in the Gemara Megillah. This is from Mashiach. This is the eschatological circumstance. Chafei in the Gemara there. That's why it's there, because it defines the totality of our lifespan inherent in Mrs. Stepper's perception. Good question.
Very good. And then came another very important theory that also from the philosophical point of view was like complete shock to the philosophical community. It's the Big Bang theory. What was the problem? What's the problem with the Big Bang theory? It's not just another scientific theory. From the days of Aristotle, the philosophical community believed in eternal world. That the world does not have the beginning, does not have the point zero. And that's why the whole concept of being created, of creationism, was rejected. Big Bang showed that it's not true. That scientifically we can show that there was the beginning point.
The Rambam said something very interesting. He believed in creatio ex nihilo, right? Creation out of nothing, it happened. But he said, if he was convinced scientifically
very good.
Aristotle was right, he would interpret the Torah to agree with Aristotle. He wouldn't have
No. He said if it were possible, if it were possible to prove it, I would accept it. Mm-hmm. And it goes very nicely with what I'm saying, because my understanding of Rambam, what he said, well, we know you can't prove it, disprove it, scientifically, by the way, because according to this definition, you have to set an experiment, right, to create the world. Since you can't set an experiment, and the same true, by the way, about evolution, about which we'll talk separately, it's not a scientific statement per definition, okay? But according to his principle, you should accept truth from anybody who says it. If it were possible to prove it, you should accept it as a scientific truth, which has nothing to do with the real truth. It's a scientific truth.
One other point, you might have mentioned this before I came in, but I think if you did, there really is a fifth group in modern times that says, Zelachud to Zelachud, okay? Science can be true, but religion is not here to teach science. Religion is here to teach.
Right. That's the fourth group that I mentioned. I'm getting that. I'm getting that.
Okay.
Exactly. Why this is so important? Of course, there is a huge gap between 6,000 years and 6 billion years. However, conceptually, first it was another proof that science does not discover the absolute truth, because people for philosophical community for thousands of years believed that this is the scientific truth. And then later science, without any influence from religion, by the way, all these changes happened by their own, proved that it's not true. That can be point number one. How can I reconcile it with 6,000 years? Very easy. One statement can be said. One statement is found in Hulin. If you mentioned Gemara, it says "Bekumatam uvetzuratam," that the world was created exactly as it is. Meaning, when the trees were created, if you cut the tree, you could have had an impression that the tree grew for many years. And the first man, the Midrash says, was 20 years of age, right? According to one of the Midrashim, he was created 20 years of age. That means it didn't start 30, sorry, I thought 20. But he wasn't created a baby. Meaning there was an impression that there was for somebody who looked at the world, there was a false impression that it existed before the creation. Meaning, according to this approach, the world was created the way it is, with the bones of dinosaurs, with minerals that could show you that it existed for 6 billion years. Why it was created this way? For different reasons. One of them, so we'll have the choice. That's approach number one. You cannot prove or disprove it using science. Approach number two says, well, we know, based on certain Jewish sources and just based on logic, that it's quite possible that certain chemical reactions had a different speed or worked differently in the beginning of creation. According to some opinion, during initial stages of creation, according to the other opinion, before the flood. I'll give you an example. Let's say you find a stone which has a hole, and we know that it was, we found it at a spring, and we know that the water was dripping. And let's say the water drips with constant speed. We can calculate this speed. So we know, looking at this hole, we know the thickness of the stone. Well, let's say calculate that it took 1,000 years to make this hole. But what happens if I make this hole by a drill and I put it in this place, right? And somebody doesn't know, and he finds this stone, and I made this hole 10 minutes ago, but if the guy calculates the speed of the water, he will think it took 1,000 years to make it. Okay? I'm just oversimplifying. But we really don't need this terutzim. We really don't need it because we understand that this is a model, very useful model, that helps us to create better cars, to explore the world and to settle the world. And it's per definition, it's our model that we created to explain certain experiments. And by the way, Newton, for example, was very famous for saying, I don't make up theories. Meaning, again, being a religious person, he believed that his theories are the absolute truth. He just discovered them. But these theories are the absolute truth. Now I understand that's wrong. Our theories are models that we create to explain experiments. And per definition, there is a possibility that a new experiment will come up that cannot be explained by this model. And that's why we should come up with a new model. By the way, there was a very interesting story about Newton. He had a friend, also a physicist, who was one of the first atheists. And once he came to him and they had a discussion. And then Newton invited him to his office. And in the office he had an amazing model of the solar system with a big candle in the middle and small balls that moved around the candle in the exact orbits. And that guy was amazed, and he said, I want this model for our university. Who made it? So Newton looked at him and said, nobody made it. I had these balls in the boxes for a long time, for 15 years, and they rubbed each other. And that's how the model was created. And see, it moves. So the guy looked at him and says, I'm making